The Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Charlie Zelle, joins me right now to talk a little bit about his views for Minnesota's transportation system. Thanks for joining us, Commissioner. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Commissioner, let's begin a little bit with your background. You took over this position in January, leaving your position as CEO of Jefferson Lines. Now, why this transition from the private sector to the public?
Well, you know, Julie, this was nothing I was actually looking for, but the opportunity came to me very suddenly. And I do have a deep background in the bus business, but I had also been involved in a number of transportation committees and was very interested in the policy issues. I was leading the, co-leading the Itasca Project's Transportation Initiative. And as chairman of the board of the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, one of their highest priorities was transportation. So I was familiar with the policy, and then when this opportunity came up, I couldn't resist.
You jumped at it. Well, shortly after the announcement that you would succeed Tom Sorrell, you were quoted, "MnDOT has a strong reputation for innovation, and I look forward to helping lead the agency as it plays an increasingly important role in advancing the state's future prosperity through key investments in infrastructure." So what are some of your ideas at this point?
Well, you know, that's totally it. After 6 months, have an even more increasing appreciation of the expertise that's within MnDOT. We have offices and district, division personnel throughout the state. But I think that it is clear that there's a need for additional funding to build out and maintain the transportation system that we have in our state.
That leads to my next question. You've already indicated just now that you believe there's increased revenue needed. So what sources, if any, would you support?
Well, first, I think people would want to make sure we're being smart about the funding we currently have. And I've actually realigned our management, and we now have 2 deputy commissioners, one a chief engineer, but another is our chief financial officer, who's really looking at ways that we can be prudent and ensure that we are tracking costs and making sure that we're delivering the most we can with taxpayer dollars. But there are a number of sources for funding our trunk highway system. Everybody knows about the gas tax, but also registration fees and sales tax on motor vehicles are also primary sources for funding our transportation.
So, Commissioner, with your private sector experience, do you think that now might be the time to explore perhaps some private-public partnerships, such as some lawmakers have already suggested this?
Well, first of all, when I think about transportation and being in the private sector, I have always had this philosophy that it's not about one particular line, but it's about an interconnected system. So it really isn't just about highways and bridges. It's about transit, bicycles, pedestrians, freight rail, ports, airports. I mean, there's a completely interconnected system. And how it's financed is, as I had mentioned, through the Highway Trunk Fund, but also other revenue. And I think that looking at public-private partnerships in certain areas makes a lot of sense. It by itself is not a silver bullet. There's no one particular solution. I think one thing that we can do with private partnerships is help mitigate the risk to taxpayers, making sure that we're controlling costs appropriately.
Now, we do speak with the lead Republican on the Senate Transportation Committee, Senator John Peterson, a little bit later in the program, but
yes,
he did state that he believes MnDOT should be restructured, be primarily the overseer of private contracts and private engineers of these projects. Now, is there any value, in your opinion, to these thoughts of downsizing a bit?
You know, it's interesting. Having operated a private bus business which serves 60 communities within the state of Minnesota, I think there is a role for private operations. However, there's probably great efficiency in the public system we have. I don't think any customer or taxpayer actually even notices, is this a private contract? Is this a public entity? There's counties, there's towns, it's not just MnDOT. But the important thing is that we're being prudent and that they work well together. And I'm not sure it's quite so simple as the private sector being more efficient. I think in some cases, public agencies, and in this case, MnDOT, does a great job at deploying the resources it has wisely.
Commissioner, I want to ask you, it's been stated over and over again that this is now kind of the crossroads, a key time for transportation in the state. The governor has stated that Minnesotans need to decide now if they want to invest in a world-class transportation system or to remain, as he calls it, status quo. How do you intend to kind of drive this conversation with both the public and also with lawmakers?
Well, thank you, Julie, for asking that. I really appreciate the governor because he has said early on, Zelle, get out there and tell the story. And I really am doing that, and I'm intending to increase the amount of meetings and outreach to kind of help really explain what is the state of transportation, what are we doing now, and what's the prospects for the future. We have a 20-year plan, but the 20-year plan with the existing resources really doesn't address the challenges we have ahead. Two in particular. One is just preserving and maintaining the roads and the bridges that were built in some cases 40 or 50 years ago. They need to be maintained, they need to be replaced, in part for safety and in part to kind of ease congestion in areas that people really care about. So I'm really looking forward to kind of having this outreach, education campaign to meet with citizens and kind of explain and actually listen to the stories about how transportation affects their lives.
Okay, Commissioner Zelle, we will be following transportation issues very closely. Next session, I'm sure we'll invite you on the program again. We hope to see you.
I really look forward to it.